What if I told you the hardest clutter to deal with after 60 isn't the piles of magazines or the kitchen gadgets, it's the things you swore you'd never let go of. The wedding dress tucked away in a box, the shelves of gifts you never use but feel guilty parting with, the furniture that's been broken for years yet still occupies your living room. These aren't just objects, they are emotional anchors, tying you to the past and quietly draining your energy in the present. And here's the surprising truth. Holding on to these items doesn't protect your memories, it only crowds out your peace of mind. Today, I'll share 10 life-changing ways to finally release those untouchables and discover what it feels like to walk into a home that feels calm, open, and truly yours again. Because after 60, clutter isn't just about space, it's about freedom, safety, and the ability to enjoy every single day without being weighed down by things you no longer need. If you want your next chapter to feel lighter, more joyful, and more peaceful, hit like and subscribe to Wise Aging Seniors right now. These aren't the same old decluttering tricks you've heard before. These are practical, heartfelt strategies designed especially for older Americans who are ready to let go of the heavy and embrace the meaningful. Solvina Rae was 71 when she finally admitted something she had been ignoring for years. Her house no longer felt like a home. A retired piano teacher from Kentucky, she had spent her life surrounded by music, memories, and people she loved dearly. But over time, her passion for saving every piece of her past began to work against her. What once felt comforting now felt suffocating. Every room carried not just items, but emotions, layer upon layer of objects she couldn't bring herself to release. Her hallway closet was stacked with boxes of sheet music, some yellowed and torn, collected from recitals and lessons decades ago. The living room shelves sagged under the weight of sympathy cards she received after her husband passed, each one feeling too sacred to throw away. In the guest room, 2 broken chairs sat untouched for years because she always told herself, "One day I'll fix them." And in her bedroom, unopened gifts from well-meaning friends stayed tucked away, gathering dust, because she couldn't bear the guilt of letting go of something someone else had chosen for her. It wasn't that Solvina didn't know she had too much. She did. Every time she tripped over a box or struggled to find space for something new, the truth whispered in her ear. But the harder part was emotional. She felt trapped between honoring her past and protecting her peace in the present. And that tension, between memory and freedom, is one many people over 60 know all too well. For Solvina, every object felt like a story she wasn't ready to close. And yet, as her days slowed and her energy shifted, she began to notice that keeping everything didn't preserve her history, it weighed her down. Instead of enjoying her afternoons at the piano, she found herself drained by the clutter pressing in from every corner. This is where her journey begins. Through the 10 tips you're about to hear, Solvina discovered a new way forward. She learned that she didn't have to erase her memories to reclaim her home. She could honor her past, respect her story, and still create a space that felt alive for the years ahead. Her transformation wasn't about getting rid of everything, it was about letting go of the right things. And as her story unfolds, you may find yourself seeing your own home and your own untouchables in a completely new way. Tip 1. The Expiration Rule of Emotional Items. One of the hardest categories of clutter to deal with after 60 is the sentimental pile. The things that tug at your heart even though they no longer serve your daily life. That stack of birthday cards from decades ago, the dried flowers from a wedding, the ticket stubs from concerts long past, each one seems harmless until you realize they've slowly filled drawers, boxes, and closets. The problem isn't that they take up space, it's that they keep you emotionally anchored to moments you've already lived, and they prevent you from fully embracing the life you have now. That's where the expiration rule of emotional items comes in. Just as food has an expiration date, so do keepsakes. The truth is, not every item is meant to last forever. If you haven't looked at it, touched it, or shared its story with someone in the last 5 years, chances are it's no longer serving the purpose it once did. Its memory may have already faded, or it may have become a symbol of guilt rather than joy. Letting it go doesn't mean erasing the past. It means giving yourself permission to carry only the pieces that still bring you comfort or connection. For Solvina Rae, this was one of the most freeing lessons of her journey. After her husband passed, she received hundreds of sympathy cards. At first, each one felt sacred, a reminder that she was loved and supported. But as the years went by, those boxes of cards became heavier, not physically, but emotionally. They weren't a source of comfort anymore. They were a reminder of grief she no longer needed to carry in such a visible way. Solvina gave herself permission to apply the expiration rule. She sat down with the cards and asked, "Which ones still make me feel something meaningful today?" Out of hundreds, she chose 3 that truly spoke to her heart. She placed them in a small memory album, and the rest she quietly released. The surprising thing? She didn't feel loss, she felt lighter. By keeping only the ones that still held real emotional value, she honored her memories without drowning in them. The expiration rule gave her clarity, a way to separate meaningful treasures from emotional clutter. If you're looking around your home and feeling overwhelmed, try this. Pick one box, one drawer, or one stack of sentimental items. Ask yourself, has this been meaningful in the last 5 years? Would I still tell its story to someone today? If the answer is no, it may have already expired. Letting it go opens up space not just in your home, but in your heart. And here's a thought for you. What's one item you've been holding onto that might have already reached its expiration date? Share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. Tip 2. The 3-guess test. Sometimes, we hold on to things not because we love them, but because we've grown blind to them. They sit on our shelves, in our cabinets, or out in plain sight, and over time they simply fade into the background. That's why one of the most eye-opening strategies for decluttering after 60 is what I call the 3-guest test. It's simple, but incredibly effective. Imagine that 3 guests are coming over tomorrow: friends, neighbors, or even your grandchildren. Now ask yourself, would I be proud to have them see or use this item? If the answer is no, then it's clutter. This test shifts your perspective in a powerful way. It takes you out of the mindset of ownership, "I've had this for years, so I should keep it," and places you into the mindset of hospitality and dignity. Think about it. If you wouldn't want your best friend drinking coffee out of a cracked mug, or your grandchildren seeing a pile of broken knickknacks on the counter, why keep them in your home at all? The 3-guess test doesn't just measure whether something is useful, it measures whether it reflects the life you want to live now. For Solvina Rae, this tip became a turning point. She had an entire cabinet filled with mugs collected over the years, many of them chipped, stained, or too large to comfortably hold. She told herself they were fine for her, but when she imagined offering one to a guest, she hesitated. That hesitation told her everything she needed to know. Solvina chose her 3 favorite mugs, ones that were sturdy, beautiful, and a joy to use, and let the rest go. The funny thing? She didn't miss them. Instead, every morning, she found herself reaching for one of the mugs she truly loved, and it brought her a small spark of happiness each time. This exercise works across every corner of your home. Open your pantry. Would you feel comfortable offering those old spices or dented cans to someone visiting? Check your living room. Would you want guests to see the stacks of outdated magazines or dusty figurines? Walk into your bathroom. Would you offer that towel with frayed edges to a friend staying overnight? If the thought makes you cringe, it's time to let those items go. The beauty of the 3-guess test is that it forces clarity without guilt. It's not about judging your worth based on your things, it's about aligning your space with how you actually want to live and present yourself. After 60, many of us want to live more gracefully, with simplicity and ease. This method helps strip away the noise so your home feels like a place you're proud to share, not one you feel you have to apologize for. Now let me ask you, if 3 guests were coming over tomorrow, what's the first item in your home you wouldn't want them to see? Share it in the comments. You might be surprised how freeing it feels to admit it. Tip 3. The $10 freedom mindset. One of the biggest reasons clutter lingers in our homes, especially after 60, is guilt. We convince ourselves that letting go of an item means wasting money, even if the item hasn't been touched in years. That hand mixer bought on sale, the extra can opener you forgot you owned, or the stack of plastic storage containers without matching lids. We hold on, telling ourselves they are still useful. But here's the hard truth. Usefulness doesn't matter if you never actually use it. The $10 freedom mindset is designed to break that cycle. The rule is simple. When you're hesitating about an item, ask yourself, if this disappeared tomorrow, could I replace it for under $10? If the answer is yes, then that object is not worth the emotional weight it's adding to your home. Because here's the reality. For less than the cost of 2 cups of coffee in most US cities, you could buy it again if you truly needed it. But chances are, you won't. This shift was life-changing for Solvina Rae. Her kitchen drawers were overflowing with gadgets. Duplicate peelers, old spatulas, corroded measuring spoons, even a specialty apple corer she hadn't touched since the 1980s. She told herself they were still perfectly good. But when she applied the $10 freedom mindset, she realized every one of those items was replaceable at the local dollar store if she ever desperately needed it again. With that thought, the guilt lifted. She filled an entire donation box with unused gadgets and suddenly found space in her drawers for the items she actually enjoyed using every day. The real power of this mindset isn't about money, it's about permission. It gives you the freedom to let go without fear. You stop seeing every object as a permanent fixture and start recognizing that most of what clutters your home is easily replaceable, if it ever truly matters again. And in practice, you almost never end up replacing those things. Try this for yourself. Walk through one room, maybe your kitchen, bathroom, or garage, and pick up a handful of items. Would you really spend the time, money, and effort to replace them if they disappeared tomorrow? If not, then they're not essential to your life. Keeping them just in case isn't saving you, it's stealing your space and peace of mind. So, here's a question for you. What's one item you've been holding onto that you know could easily be replaced for under $10? Share it in the comments, because sometimes the smallest realizations bring the biggest freedom. Tip 4. Reverse inheritance. One of the quietest sources of clutter in a senior's home is the belief that my children or grandchildren will want this one day. It's a comforting thought that the family china, the heavy dining table, or the endless photo albums will be treasured by the next generation. But more often than not, these items end up becoming a burden instead of a blessing. The hard truth is that younger generations live differently. They move more often, they buy homes with less storage, and they value experiences over large collections of things. What you're saving for them with love may actually create stress later. That's why the reverse inheritance rule is so powerful. Instead of storing boxes and furniture in hopes your family will want them someday, flip the process around. Ask them directly, right now, what they actually want. If they don't claim it, then it's not yours to carry anymore. This removes the guesswork, lifts years of guilt, and prevents your family from being overwhelmed with objects they never asked for. For Solvina Rae, this realization changed everything. She had been holding on to her ornate china set for decades, convinced her daughter would use it for holidays. But when she asked, her daughter admitted she preferred simple, modern dishes that could go in the dishwasher. The truth stung at first, but it freed Solvina to let go. She donated the entire set to a bridal thrift shop, where a young couple bought it for their first home. Suddenly, the china wasn't just sitting in storage, it was being loved and used again. Reverse inheritance works with everything: furniture, jewelry, old collections, even family photo albums. You might be surprised to find your children only want 1 or 2 pieces with real meaning. And that's the point. When they choose the things that matter most, you free yourself from the pressure of keeping everything else for them. This isn't just about decluttering, it's about creating clarity for your family. You're sparing them from difficult decisions down the road, and giving yourself the gift of a home that feels lighter today. Here's something to reflect on. Is there one item you've been holding on to just because you assumed your children or grandchildren would want it? Why not ask them this week? You may find out that letting go is easier and kinder than you ever imagined. Tip 5. The empty shelf experiment. One of the most surprising truths about clutter is how invisible it becomes over time. We get so used to shelves packed with knickknacks, books stacked in 2 rows, or countertops covered with essentials that we stop noticing how much visual weight they add to a room. That's why the empty shelf experiment can be such a powerful reset. It forces you to experience what true openness feels like, without committing to throwing anything away right away. Here's how it works. Choose one shelf, one tabletop, or one small surface in your home. Clear it completely. Box up the items or move them temporarily out of sight, and then leave that space bare for a full week. At first, you might feel unsettled, as though something is missing. But as the days pass, many people find that what once felt empty now feels peaceful. The blank space gives your eyes a place to rest, and your mind a sense of calm. That relief is the signal that clutter has been stealing your energy without you realizing it. For Solvina Rae, the empty shelf experiment was a revelation. She had a hallway console table that had become a landing zone for everything: old mail, decorative bowls, half-burned candles, and little figurines she hadn't dusted in months. She decided to clear it off completely, leaving nothing but a bare wooden surface. At first, she thought it looked strange, almost too plain. But by the third day, she noticed something surprising. Each time she walked past that console, she felt lighter. Instead of being reminded of chores, it gave her a sense of calm. By the end of the week, she realized she didn't miss those objects at all. Instead, she placed one small vase of fresh flowers on the console, and it became her favorite peaceful corner in the house. The beauty of this experiment is that it doesn't force you into difficult decisions right away. You're not throwing anything out, you're simply testing how life feels without the constant visual noise. If, after a week, you don't miss the items, that's your answer. They're not adding value anymore. And if you do miss something, bring back only the 1 or 2 pieces that truly matter. This method works especially well for seniors because it's gentle and non-threatening. It's not about guilt or pressure, it's about discovery. You're giving yourself the chance to feel the contrast between a crowded space and a clear one. And once you experience how calming openness can be, it becomes easier to make decisions about the rest of your home. So here's a challenge for you: pick one shelf or surface today and clear it off completely. Live with it for a week. Then ask yourself, did the emptiness feel strange, or did it feel like a breath of fresh air? Share your answer in the comments, because your experience might inspire someone else to try the same experiment. Tip 6. The Broken Promise Rule. Every home has them, items tucked in corners, stored in closets, or pushed into the garage with the words, "I'll fix this someday," attached to them. The lamp with the broken switch, the chair with the loose leg, the clock that hasn't ticked in years. These things start out as small projects, but as time passes, they turn into silent burdens. What was once a hopeful plan becomes an unspoken weight, reminding you of something undone. That's why I call them broken promises. The broken promise rule is simple. If an item has been broken for more than 6 months and you haven't repaired it, it's time to let it go. Because at that point, the truth is clear: you don't need it as much as you think you do. Keeping it doesn't save you money or preserve value, it only holds space in your home and in your mind. Worse, these items whisper constant reminders of tasks you should be doing, which chips away at your peace. For Solvina Rae, this was a turning point. In the back of her guest room closet sat her old sewing machine. Once upon a time, she told herself she would repair it and use it to sew quilts again. But the reality was, 8 years had passed, and the machine had gathered dust instead of stitches. Every time she saw it, she felt guilty for not following through. When she finally applied the broken promise rule, she realized the sewing machine wasn't a tool anymore, it was a burden. By releasing it, she wasn't just clearing space, she was freeing herself from years of quiet disappointment. Think about what's lurking in your home right now. Is there a box of electronics waiting to be tinkered with? A stack of shoes you've promised yourself you'll resole? Or furniture leaning against the wall, waiting for that someday fix? Each one represents time and energy you may never want to spend. Letting them go doesn't mean you failed, it means you're choosing peace over pressure. Here's the deeper truth: broken items drain you twice. They drain your space, and they drain your spirit with a nagging voice that says you're behind. After 60, your time is too precious for that. Your home should uplift you, not remind you of unfinished business. So ask yourself this: what broken promise are you ready to release today? Share it in the comments. You might find that just naming it is the first step to finally letting it go. Tip 7. The 60-second decision drill. One of the biggest roadblocks in decluttering, especially after 60, is not the physical act of sorting, but the mental tug-of-war that happens with each item. You pick something up, you hesitate, and suddenly 10 minutes have gone by while you debate, should I keep this? What if I need it? What if I regret letting it go? That hesitation multiplies, and before you know it, you're exhausted and surrounded by even bigger piles. This is where the 60-second decision drill comes in, a simple but powerful way to break the cycle of indecision. The rule is straightforward. When you pick up an item, give yourself just 60 seconds to decide. If you can't clearly answer whether it adds value to your life right now, then it's clutter. That quick time limit forces your instincts to speak louder than your doubts. Most of the time, your gut already knows the answer. It's the overthinking that keeps you stuck. For Solvina Rae, this drill was the difference between progress and paralysis. She used to spend hours going through boxes, picking up one scarf, one trinket, one book, and falling down memory lane with each decision. It left her emotionally drained and without much progress to show for it. When she applied the 60-second decision drill, she stopped second-guessing herself. A sweater she hadn't worn in over a decade? Out. A vase that had been hiding in the back of the cupboard? Out. The decision became quick, almost refreshing, because the rule gave her permission to trust herself instead of arguing with herself. This method works because clutter thrives on indecision. The longer you hold an object in your hands, the more your mind invents reasons to keep it. A short, clear time frame keeps you moving forward. It also builds momentum. After a few minutes of fast decisions, you'll find a rhythm, and decluttering starts to feel less like a burden and more like a flow. Of course, some items deserve thought, like legal documents or truly valuable heirlooms. But the truth is, 90% of what fills your home doesn't fall into those categories. Most of it is just everyday clutter waiting for you to make a choice. So here's a challenge. The next time you're sorting through a drawer or closet, set a timer. 60 seconds, one item at a time. You'll be surprised how quickly the answers come when you don't give clutter the power to argue with you. And I'd love to know, what's the hardest item for you to make quick decisions about? Share in the comments, because your story might help another viewer push through their own indecision. Tip 8. Community First Decluttering. One of the deepest reasons people struggle to let go of belongings after 60 is the fear that their items will simply end up in a landfill. It feels wasteful, even disrespectful, to toss something that once cost money or carried purpose. That's why the Community First Decluttering approach can be so freeing. It allows you to release items with the confidence that they'll bring value to someone else right away. Instead of dropping everything at a donation center and never knowing what becomes of it, consider giving directly to people in your own community. Across the United States, Buy Nothing groups, local senior center swaps, and community free tables have become popular ways to keep useful items circulating where they are needed most. The principle is simple. What no longer serves you may be exactly what someone else has been searching for. For Solvina Rae, this method transformed how she viewed her clutter. She had an unused walker tucked away in her garage, a backup she never ended up needing. For years, she felt conflicted about parting with it, afraid it would be discarded instead of appreciated. When her granddaughter showed her a local Buy Nothing group online, Solvina decided to post it. Within hours, a neighbor just 2 blocks away messaged her, overjoyed that she could pick it up for her husband recovering from surgery. Watching that walker leave her home and go directly to someone who needed it gave Solvina a sense of pride, not loss. That's the beauty of community-first decluttering. It transforms guilt into generosity. Each item becomes a gift instead of a burden. A stack of books becomes a starter library for a neighbor. Extra kitchen tools equip a young couple just starting out. Even furniture, linens, or medical equipment can make an immediate difference in someone's life when passed along directly. The process also builds connections. Seniors who participate in these exchanges often find themselves forming new friendships, sharing stories, and feeling more engaged in their local community. Instead of decluttering feeling like losing something, it feels like investing in others. If you're hesitant about letting go of certain things, ask yourself, who in my community could use this today? Chances are, there's someone closer than you think. So here's a challenge for you. Pick one item this week and try giving it directly to someone nearby, whether through a Buy Nothing group, a church bulletin board, or your local senior center. Then come back and share in the comments how it felt. You might be surprised to find that decluttering becomes less about parting with items and more about passing on blessings. Tip 9. The comfort trade. One of the hardest parts of decluttering after 60 isn't the physical act of moving things out, it's the emotional emptiness that follows. When you release something tied to a memory, a loved one, or a past stage of life, it can feel like you're creating a hole. That's why so many people stop midway through decluttering. They fear the absence will hurt more than the clutter itself. The comfort trade turns that moment into a positive experience by replacing what you let go of with something that actively supports your comfort, health, or happiness today. Here's how it works. For every difficult item you release, intentionally add a small upgrade that makes your life better in the present. It doesn't have to be expensive. Sometimes it's as simple as a new cushion, a cozy throw blanket, or a piece of decor that brings you joy. By trading the old for something that nurtures your daily life, you shift the focus away from loss and toward renewal. For Solvina Rae, this approach was transformative. In her living room sat her late husband's old recliner. It was worn, sagging, and uncomfortable, but she kept it for years because she couldn't imagine parting with something that had been his spot. Each time she looked at it, though, she felt a pang of sadness instead of comfort. When she applied the comfort trade, she donated the recliner to a local charity that refurbished furniture. In its place, she bought a supportive chair with soft arms and a high back that cradled her posture while she read. Over time, that new chair became her favorite nook, a place filled with warmth and relaxation, not sorrow. The recliner hadn't been erased, it had been transformed into an opportunity for comfort. The comfort trade works in every room. Struggling to part with old linens? Replace them with one set of high-quality sheets that make bedtime a joy. Hesitant to let go of old cookware? Invest in one sturdy pan that makes preparing meals easier on your hands. Every trade turns decluttering into self-care. This mindset is especially powerful for seniors in the United States, where comfort, mobility, and ease of living become more important with age. By making sure each letting go moment ends with a gain, you're reinforcing positivity and motivation to continue. So ask yourself, what's one thing you could trade today? Maybe that sagging chair for a supportive one, or those faded towels for something soft and new. Share your answer in the comments. Your trade might inspire someone else to finally make theirs. Tip 10. The room reset vision. When you've lived in the same house for decades, it's easy to stop seeing the rooms for what they are. The furniture stays in the same place, the closets fill little by little, and what was once a lively guest room or tidy office slowly turns into a storage zone. By the time you're in your 60s or 70s, those rooms can feel more like burdens than blessings. That's why the room reset vision is such a powerful tool. It gives you permission to look at your space with fresh eyes, as if you were moving in for the very first time. Here's how it works. Choose one room in your home and stand in the doorway. Now imagine you've just moved in at this stage of life. Ask yourself, what would I keep here if I were starting from scratch? What would make this room support the life I'm living today? This mental reset cuts through nostalgia and habit, replacing them with clarity about what actually serves you. For Solvina Rae, this experiment unlocked a breakthrough. Her guest room had slowly filled with boxes of unused linens, broken picture frames, and stacks of forgotten holiday decorations. She told herself she needed to keep it all just in case, but the truth was, the room hadn't hosted a guest in years. When she applied the room reset vision, she asked herself, if I moved in today, would I use this room for storage? Or would I create something joyful? The answer was immediate. She transformed that cluttered space into a bright art studio where she could paint and play music again. Instead of a room that drained her, she now had a sanctuary that inspired her every morning. This exercise is especially valuable for seniors in the United States who are embracing new chapters, retirement, hobbies, or simply quieter days at home. A reset room doesn't have to be dramatic. A storage-filled dining room can become a cozy library nook. A cluttered basement can become a small workout space to support healthy aging. The goal isn't perfection, it's alignment. Your rooms should reflect the life you're living now, not the life you lived 20 years ago. The Room Reset Vision is about reclaiming choice. It reminds you that your home should evolve with you, not trap you in the past. By seeing each room through fresh eyes, you discover possibilities hiding under layers of clutter. So here's my question for you. If you could reset one room in your home today, what would you turn it into? Share your answer in the comments. You may inspire someone else to finally breathe new life into a forgotten space. When Solvina Rae first began her journey, her home felt like a weight pressing down on her shoulders. Each room was a reminder of tasks unfinished, of memories she was afraid to confront, of promises she had made to herself but never kept. But through the process of applying these 10 life-changing tips, something remarkable happened. Her home shifted. It no longer resembled a museum of her past, carefully preserving every chapter of her life whether she wanted to or not. Instead, it became a sanctuary for her present, a place that reflected the woman she was today, vibrant, creative, and ready to enjoy the years ahead. The transformation wasn't about getting rid of everything. It was about choosing intentionally. Now, when Solvina walks into her rooms, she doesn't feel drained or overwhelmed. She feels peace. She feels energy. Her hallway console isn't buried in clutter, it greets her with fresh flowers. Her guest room, once a catch-all storage zone, shines as her art studio where the hours pass quickly in joy instead of guilt. Even the spaces she once avoided, like the garage filled with projects, now breathe with possibility. What she discovered is a truth many people miss. Clutter doesn't just take up space, it steals your future. That's why decluttering after 60 is about far more than organizing closets. It's about freedom. It's about giving yourself permission to release what no longer serves you so you can live fully in the time you have now. When you stop carrying the weight of every object, you start to carry more of what matters: your peace, your health, your joy, and your ability to say yes to new experiences. So let this be your lift. After 60, decluttering isn't about letting go of the past, it's about giving yourself the space to live fully in the present. If these tips sparked an idea for your own home, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button, share this with a friend over 60 who may need the same encouragement, and subscribe to Wise Aging Seniors. Because your next chapter deserves to be lighter, freer, and beautifully yours. And it all begins with the courage to release what's holding you back.